Hello again. Now in this final lecture of section 4, structuring the response, we're going to look at cohesive devices and referencing, or in other words, how to link stages, data and sentences together with appropriate language and improve our sense of cohesion. Again, if we return to the band descriptors, we can see that in order to achieve a band 7 as we would like, the band descriptors state that our task 1 response must use a range of cohesive devices appropriately, although there may be some under or overuse. Now slipping to a band 6, we can see that the response uses cohesive devices effectively, but cohesion within and or between sentences may be faulty or mechanical. In essence, if you do not use cohesive devices, you will not get any more than a band 5 for coherence and cohesion. And if you do not use cohesive devices accurately or appropriately, you won't score more than a band 6. So these pieces of language are incredibly important within or between sentences. This is crucial because it's not just looking at joining sentences together, but also joining the ideas within the sentence together. So first of all, let's ask the question, what are cohesive devices? Now, I want you to read a paragraph here for a task 1 response and see if you can identify all the cohesive devices. Looking at the details, just over half of all boys from 10 to 15 chat on the internet during school days, with about 25% spending less than an hour. However, almost 70% of girls enjoy this activity, and as many as nearly 10% spend over 4 hours chatting online. So, where are the cohesive devices here? Let's have a look at another one. In contrast, playing on games consoles is far more popular among boys than girls, with about 85% of boys playing daily compared to just over 50% of girls. Of those who play video games, whereas the majority of boys play between 1 and 3 hours, the largest proportion of girls play for less than an hour. Again, where are the cohesive devices here? Let's have a look. Looking at the details. However, in contrast, of those who play video games, that one's a little bit different. Now, all of these are looking at transitions between sentences or between paragraphs, which we mentioned on the previous slide there. So all of these are looking at transitions between ideas, between sentences. However, we also have cohesive devices within sentences. So with about 25% spending and as many as nearly 10% spend. Whereas, so the language above helps us to build a sense of cohesion within and between sentences. Without this language, the transitions between ideas would be very mechanical. It would be sloppy. It would be inaccurate. It would be jarring. And that would disrupt the flow of the response. So we need language like this to improve our sense of cohesion. Let's have a look at some useful cohesive devices for when we want to transition between sentences. Now, I'm not going to read everything out here. What I would want you to do is perhaps pause the video, maybe screenshot this video, which just contains all of the different cohesive devices that we can use for different purposes. Opening a paragraph, linking stages, suggesting contrast, adding another point. And also for within sentences, to link stages, to suggest contrast, to add another point. And you can try practicing these in your responses. Let's have a look at cohesive devices in use. So, using the language that we've looked at, let's try to make the following comparative graph paragraph more cohesive with cohesive devices. So here it is without cohesive devices. In Yemen in 2000, half of the population consisted of the youngest age bracket. The middle and eldest age groups came in second and third position at 46.3% and 3.6% respectively. In 2050, The 60-plus-year-olds are predicted to maintain their position with 5.7% of the population. The 15 to 59-year-olds are forecast to overtake the youngest group by 20%. Grammar's great, vocabulary's great, addressing the task requirements, but there's very little cohesion here. So let's see if we can improve this. With regards to Yemen in 2000, half of the population consisted of the youngest age bracket, with the middle and eldest age groups coming in second and third position. In 2050, the 60-plus-year-olds are predicted to maintain their position with 5.7%. However, the 15 to 59-year-olds are forecast to overtake the youngest group by 20%. Notice we're not using too many cohesive devices here. You don't want to overuse. Be careful of overuse. Let's have a look again at a detailed paragraph of graphs with the trend. The red meats, beef and lamb, both showed downward trends. Beef consumption began at around 220 grams. Beef consumption then fluctuated for a decade. Then there was a decrease to about 110 grams in 2004. The amount of lamb eaten had fallen from 150 in 1979 to approximately 60 grams by 2004. Again, good language, no sense of cohesion. Maybe we could use some stage language here to improve cohesion. If we look at the red meats, etc., regarding beef, consumption began at around 220 grams before fluctuating for a decade. This was followed by a gradual decrease. Similarly, the amount of lamb eaten had fallen. So you can see the reason we're using these cohesive devices. Again, not too many. Notice that graphs with a trend feature much more stage linking language than comparative graphs do. So that might be quite useful when you consider what type of task you have. Finally, let's have a look at referencing. Referencing is the ability to refer back to previous ideas without necessarily using the same language. This is especially important in task 1 because without referencing, we would end up repeating ourselves quite a lot. Let's have a look at an example. Beef consumption began at 200 grams before rising quickly to 400 grams. Consumption then fell to 300 grams. Let's improve this little stretch of language with some referencing. This figure then fell to 300 grams. Really quickly, with hardly anything changed, we've changed the repetitive nature of this language by using a demonstrative pronoun, this. Now this is an example of referencing. Let's look at a couple more examples, not with demonstrative pronouns, but with something a little bit different. First of all, let's look at the former and the latter. So, we can avoid repetition and improve cohesions with these expressions. Let's have a look at an example. England and Denmark both had approval ratings of 45% in 1990, but whereas the former fell to just 20% in 1995, the latter surged to 80%. So we're using the former to refer back to the first category in our list of 2, and we're using the latter to refer to the second category in our list of 2. So the former refers to England and the latter refers to Denmark. This enables us to avoid repeating England and Denmark and saving a lot of time as well. The other thing we can do is use the term respectively. This is another very handy way of avoiding repetition and saving time, particularly when presenting multiple points of information. So, we need to use the word respectively, which essentially means according to the previous order. Let's have a look at an example. In 1995, the approval ratings of England and Denmark were 20% and 80% respectively. This is a very simple example, but you can see that England relates to 20%, whereas Denmark relates to 80%, because that's the order in which they were written.